All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Armchair Armdrager podcast. As always, I am your host, Ben Hersick. This week, there was a lot that went on in wrestling, believe it or not. You had Takeover 25 on Saturday. You had Best of the Super Juniors yesterday morning. Yes, I was one of the idiots that woke up dumb early to watch Japanese wrestlers and other wrestlers from around the world beat the crap out of each other. No, I don't regret it. And you also now can start building to the G1 Climax. And there's also Dominion, which is Saturday, which is a 3 a.m. Eastern start time, 12 a.m. Pacific. I would say the other one's in between, but I think there's a couple other time zones I don't remember. I know there's Central. I don't know the one in between Central and Pacific. I think it's Mountain, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I also got a couple other topics I do want to talk about. But first, as always, you can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair on Twitter. You can follow myself, your host, at Churro Solider. And you can follow the website I write wrestling articles about at Things Combat. All Things Combat is a website that covers MMA, boxing, and pro wrestling. Recently, we have started doing a series where we review every single SummerSlam. We don't just go, every SummerSlam main event. We review the whole show from top to bottom and talk about, is it good? Is it not good? Is it worth it? Is it not worth it? Spoiler alert, the first two are not worth it. David, who actually just left the website, wrote the first one for 1988. I wrote 1989's, and 1990 will be coming out on Friday, just like this podcast. Let's see, anything else? We usually have articles roughly every other day. We have daily From the Rumor Mill tweets, or whenever I can find stuff from the Rumor Mill. I'm the one who runs the Twitter for lack of a better term, I use the Twitter the most. Josh does live coverage of the boxing and MMA events. I do live coverage of wrestling most of the time. Not covering Super Showdown this week, partly because of personal issues with the event happening in general, partly because I'm not going to be able to, and nobody else will have the time to. Let's see, is there anything else, like housekeeping note-wise? This is going to be episode 5, which is actually kind of cool. I believe it's 5. I actually don't know how to count. There's that vine that goes around that says, I never learned how to read. I never learned how to count. So, again, professional. I'm looking at websites while I'm recording. Yes, episode 5. So, I was going to start with Takeover, but I want to start with the Best of the Super Juniors final because that was an amazing show. Here's the thing. You can look at the tag matches. There was 3 or 4 of them beforehand where it was like, okay, it's just these guys getting a chance to wrestle, which is nice. And I talked about this on Twitter. I live tweeted the event on my own personal Twitter because it was 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. I don't even remember anymore. I don't remember what I had for breakfast today. So, I remember in the first match you had Dragon Lee, Teton, and Shota Umino versus Bandito, Jonathan Gresham, and Ren Narita. Again, I don't know. I say Shota and Ren are ready to go on excursion. I don't think New Japan thinks they're ready yet. If it could just be them saying we don't want to wear elbow pads or kick pads, and Ren only wants to wear one knee pad, but they might just not be ready yet. I think they're ready. They just might need a little more time, which is fine. You know, nobody's rushing anything here. And I also started to think about this, and I put it out on Twitter during, I want to say, the Bullet Club versus Ryusuke Taguchi and Roppongi 3K match. I think next year we see a little bit of a different field. I think, who did I put? I know I put Narita. He probably won't be back in the tournament. He'll probably be one of the guys they call as like a last-minute replacement if needed. I said Tiger Mask because the night before, the night where they had Eagles versus Ospreay as the semi-main, Tiger Mask kind of had like a goodbye. It was like almost like him saying he's done with the show, not the show, the tournament. Which would be nice because you could get other young guys in that kind of deserve it and are ready to show the world what they have. I think the same with Taka Michinoku. Plus, you look at this year, Taka got hurt. He probably wants to prevent injuries, so he probably wants to wrestle less. He was going to have 20 matches in... No, he had 9 block matches plus roughly 5 or 6 tag matches. So that's a lot of matches for him in a month, considering his age. There's a reason Suzuki does multi-man tags, World Tag League, and G1, along with Wrestle Kingdom. That's so he can conserve his body and stay around as long as he can. I think Taka's going to be in that situation here soon, so we'll see. And I don't know if Teton did enough to come back. I would love to see him come back. I loved watching him in matches. It's just he's missing a little something. He's missing what Dragon Lee has. That extra oomph behind him. If they start to build him up in CMLL and he becomes a big name there, then cool. We could see him back next year. If not, then he might just be on the cutting board. Obviously, Flip Gordon and El Desperado will be back. Hopefully, Flip has visa issues figured out. Desperado should be back relatively soon. He might actually be back. He's not going to be at Dominion. He might be at Kazuna Road, which is their next little thing before the G1. And then the G1, he might be the tag partner of either Suzuki or Zack Sabre Jr., but I think it's going to be Sabre and Taka, maybe. We don't know what Taka's injury is just yet. Or at least I don't know. And I'm also trying to think of like who else could be in the tournament. I'd love to see Mark Haskins in it, representative of Ring of Honor and England. That would be their numbers 3rd. It would be Marty, Ospreay, and Haskins. So that would be cool, I think. And I look at it, there's the possibility of Ospreay and Shingo Takagi, the 2 guys in the finals, bumping up to heavyweight. More on that here in just a little bit. I'm actually looking up really quick Taka Michinoku injury report. RY, that's a U. I know it's his foot. To me, it looked like it was going to be his Achilles. Not Achilles. Looked like his knee. It was on a dive when he was facing Shingo, where he got Shingo, but his leg hit the ground first. So it almost looked like he missed a little bit. So I thought it was ACL. New Japan Pro Wrestling has announced that Michinoku is off the rest of the tour and will forfeit the 2 remaining. Michinoku was part of B block. No, he was an A block. That's wrong. They had the Wrestling Observer newsletter got it wrong. They had him in B block. He was in A block. Anyway, that's who I think. It would be interesting to see some new guys in there too. Kind of like have like a rotation going. I would love to see Doki back. I think he looked good enough. Just have him join Suzuki-gun. I would like to have Taka kind of transition to a manager wrestler role, kind of like Gato, and have Kanemaru tag with Doki instead of Desperado. And then you can push Desperado to be the single star. Or you can push Kanemaru to be the single star. Or even Doki. That's the cool thing about New Japan. They can make anybody look good when they want to. So that's final, though. Oh, well, there was a couple matches before it. I'm trying to remember all the singles matches. I want to say there was only 3. Oh, no, I was also impressed by Brody King and Marty Scurll versus Rocky Romero and Kazuchika Okada. I also put on Twitter, how cool is it for Brody King to be standing in the same ring as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion? I think Brody King impressed New Japan on this tour, and as I'm going to say here in a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if Brody King gets a spot in the G1 Climax. That one was nice. Tanahashi versus Jay White. I know Jay White's not everybody's cup of tea. He's not everybody's favorite pro wrestler. The guy has improved tremendously from year to year. It is incredible. I know it felt like he won the IWGP heavyweight title too early. I thought it was too early, at least. I've said this to one of my friends, and I totally believe it. If it wasn't for All Elite Wrestling, we would have seen Omega Okada 5 at G1 Supercard in Madison Square Garden for the IWGP heavyweight title. All Elite Wrestling kind of threw a wrench into all the plans for New Japan, so they had to work around it. And you take your new biggest heel in Jay White against the face of the company now, Okada. and you have them in a Wrestle Kingdom rematch in the main event of that show, it made sense, but I would love to see Omega Okada 5, me personally. White Tanahashi kind of like symbolized not a passing of the torch, not even, saying, oh, this is how things are going to be from now on. It was just, we want Jay White to look good going into the G1. Tanahashi looked good because it's Tanahashi. And we're going to focus on the G1 and the heavyweights. Junior heavyweights were great. But before we get to that main event, Jon Moxley versus Juice Robinson was a very, very interesting match. You had Moxley, first match outside of WWE, and he's now the IWGP US Heavyweight Champion. Last year, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship was out of the G1. As much as I would love to see Moxley in the G1, I think somebody on Twitter told me Fyter Fest is the same day as one of the block matches. So he probably won't be in the G1, which is a shame. But it makes sense then. You can keep the titles on rotation. Now that I think about it, you're going to have the Heavyweight Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, and the Never Openweight Championship title holders, probably all in the G1. So you split it up 2 and 1. One block. It'll be a weird split. I don't even want to think about it yet. But I also look at it like this. Say AEW wants to protect Moxley. I get that. But he just won a championship in New Japan. He's the... Let me think here. Omega, White, Juice, Cody. He's the fifth different person to win the IWGP United States Championship. And now he's in the lineage with Omega, with Jay White, Juice Robinson, and Cody Rhodes. So they're kind of building this title up to be a big thing, but it's more to help establish stars. Jay White won it in his second official match coming back from Excursion. Juice Robinson won it from Jay White. Cody Rhodes wasn't a big star in New Japan. Still really wasn't when he left, but if he wasn't for All Elite Wrestling, he could have been a big star. I also look at it, though, if Moxley's whole thing is going to be about biting people, because that was one of his big things against Juice Robinson. That was the one thing I didn't like about the match. It's hardcore, put quotes around hardcore, but if you're trying to prove that you're edgier, it's not even that Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley is trying to prove that he's edgier than WWE. But if you're trying to prove that you're better, biting wrestlers in a match, no. That's not how you do it, I think, personally. Everyone's got a line where they draw. That's not wrestling for me. That's not my cup of tea. For example, CZW is that for me. I've seen people use, working saws on their opponent's heads. I don't want to see that. That's a little too much for me. But whatever works for you, it works. So there's that. And then there was the main event of Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. B block winner versus A block winner. The undefeated Shingo Takagi versus what he was calling himself that night, the Dragon Slayer, or better known as the Aerial Assassin, Will Ospreay. This match was so good. You look at it from a storytelling standpoint. I even kind of joked about it on Twitter. I put that you have in there Shingo Takagi, an unbeaten force. They've kind of been building up this whole tournament as this unbeaten person, and it just felt like the right time for him to lose, and he did. It was going to be interesting. To me, it was the right call, and you have now focus on the junior heavyweights. Will Ospreay wants to prove that junior heavyweights are fantastic, and everybody knows they are. But this also kind of transitions into my next point. The G1 starts on July 6th at Dallas, Texas, at the Dallas American Airlines Arena. The first night is in the U.S., which is really cool to see. You have all these guys, and I think it would be cool, and a couple people disagreed with me about it on Twitter, to have the junior heavyweight champion in the tournament. Of course, you beat him, you're not going to get a title shot. You're outside of the weight limit. But give them that rub. It will be nice. But first, I do want to talk about Dominion. Dominion, like I said, is this Saturday, Sunday, the 9th at 3 a.m. So, guess who's getting up early to watch that? Yay. There is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 matches on the card. You have Jon Moxley versus Shota Umino, Satoshi Kojima versus Shingo Takagi, Jushin Liger and Yoshihashi versus Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr., Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, and Ryusuke Taguchi versus Jay White, Chase Owens, and Taiji Ishimori. And then you have your 5 title matches. So I'm going to make my picks. Some of these will be really quick. Others, maybe a little more explaining. Jon Moxley versus Shota Umino. It's the IWGP United States Champion versus the Young Lion. Moxley's winning. It's that simple to me. Satoshi Kojima versus Shingo Takagi. This one's interesting. Kojima is a 2-time IWGP Heavyweight Champion, a 7-time IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champion, a former G1 winner, a 2-time Never 6-Man Open Tag Team Championship winner, and a 3-time World Tag Team winner with his teammate, I always say his first name wrong, Hiroyoshi Tenzan. They're called Tenkos, I believe. It's either Tenkos or Tenkozy. Might be Tenkozy. Against Shingo Takagi. Everyone keeps saying he looks heavy. He looks like a heavyweight. The guy's big, yeah. And I think having Shingo win here would be a nice little rub. Like, yeah, you lost Best of Super Juniors, but you get a win over a heavyweight. So that would be a good move in my opinion. And I wouldn't be surprised if during the show they announce the G1 field. I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see the 24 guys. I got to figure out who's finishing where, in my opinion, because I'm doing an article about breaking down and predicting the G1 Climax. I have a field, which I will get to after predicting the Dominion card. They also announced for Dominion Jushin Liger and Yoshihashi versus Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. I'm taking Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. simply because they're a team that they've been teaming for a long time. They're the current, at least from my knowledge, the current Rev Pro British Undisputed Tag Team Champions. And it continues the story of Liger wants a match with Suzuki. Suzuki won't give it to him. If they're in the same block in the G1 and Liger beats Suzuki, I think one of the nights at Wrestle Kingdom we see Liger versus Suzuki. That might be the night 1 main event. And then you can have Liger hang up his boots because his last match is going to be Wrestle Kingdom. I would love to see Liger Suzuki one-on-one. That's a match I think would be a very good addition to the card. Because now we're already at roughly at the halfway point of the whole year of 2019. Start looking forward to 2020. Wrestle Kingdom's on January 4th. I think it's the 4th and 5th. Yeah, it's the 4th and 5th this year. Because they're going to a 2-day event. Which is what WrestleMania should do. Please. Please. I don't want to watch 7 hours of wrestling straight. Even though I do that on a daily basis at this point, it feels like. And also you have Liger and Yoshihashi not in the same stable. Yoshihashi's in Chaos. Liger's just there. He's one of the guys who's not affiliated too much with the stable. And now in his career, he doesn't really need to be. So I think Suzuki and ZSJ will get the win. They build that important momentum for the G1. The other tag match before the championship matches, you have Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, and Ryusuke Taguchi versus Jay White, Chase Owens, and Taiji Ishimori. I'm going Bullet Club simply because you want to continue to give Jay White a big build to the G1. And then you could put Bullet Club back into the conversation of the 6-man tag titles currently held by Ryusuke Taguchi, Togi Makabe, and Toru Yano. I'd love to see Chase Owens, Taiji Ishimori, and Yujiro get those titles. Yujiro Takahashi would be nice. So now we get to the championship matches. Never open weight championship. Tai Chi, the never openweight champion, defends against Tomohiro Ishii. If you know me, you know I am a very big fan of Tomohiro Ishii. I think he's fantastic. He's great. He's somebody different. You don't always see like these guys who are bigger with no neck being this important to a company. And look at Samoa Joe in WWE. He almost feels like a filler person at this point. Whereas Tomohiro Ishii, you could see him feasibly being a legit challenger for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, which he has been. He has had opportunities. He was the one defense Naito had when Naito won the IWGP Heavyweight title. I think Ishii could be a big time player here in the next year or two for New Japan. Because I think you look at it, now they're kind of hesitant to trust foreign talent. There's a reason Skrull didn't look too impressive during the Best Super Juniors. There's a reason that Ospreay did look so good. They know Skrull is friends with the Elites, whereas Ospreay's Will Ospreay. He's always been loyal to New Japan. He's going to stay loyal to New Japan, which I'm very excited to see, and I'm very happy that Will Ospreay is staying in New Japan. But are they going to put the title back on Ishii? He hasn't been a big title holder in a little while. I think they said it's been about 2 or 3 years since he's held this title. I think going into the G1, he's a guy who could emerge as a contender. You're going to have Okada and Tanahashi be the top 2, obviously. If Tana's even in the tournament. They haven't announced him yet, which I'm surprised about. It's tough because I want to see Ishii win it. But on the same hand, I think Tai Chi with the title is really a really good thing to see because it's like, oh, hey, we're actually going to give this guy a chance. He's already a 2-time... Yes, he's a 2-time champion because Ibushi won the title from him to set up that match with Ospreay. And then Tai Chi beat Jeff Cobb for that title. It's a tough call. I'm going Ishii simply because of the fact that I think he's going to be somebody they'll look to use more in the future, which I'm totally fine with. I'm happy with that. Next is the IWGP Tag Team titles. You have GOD, the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, and Tangaloa defending their championships against Los Ingobernables de Japón of the team of Evil and Sonata. This is a rematch of the World Tag League, the World Tag League Finals the past 2 years, and a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom minus the Young Bucks. I think this match could be really good. It's going to be really good. You have 3 of the greatest wrestlers in New Japan right now, and Tangaloa, who's, you can see he's still learning. He's not bad, but he's not the best. He's improving. He is improving steadily. He's going to be fine. He's going to be an interesting guy in a couple of years here. I think I want Evil and Sonata to go into this tournament with no titles. I don't want them to have those titles. Here's why. I've been saying this for about 2 years now. Sonata and Evil are so good. They don't need to be a tag team. Let them go to the singles division and let Sonata win a singles title. He is so good. And there's a reason, there's that nagging feeling in my head, in the back of my mind, that Sonata is jumping to WWE. The reason is New Japan will not buy into him and how good he is. He's come up short every single time. He's only challenged for the IWGP Heavyweight title. He's never had an Intercontinental title shot, never had a U.S. title shot. From my knowledge, he's never had an open weight title shot. I think Sonata could be one of the best, if not the best wrestlers in the world. He might be the best, period. At least going right now. But they haven't given him the opportunity. Sonata going to NXT, and possibly what I feel like is almost a guarantee at this point, NXT Japan, for lack of a better term, NXT Japan, he could be the star there. And I would be all for it. Same with Evil. Evil is good. He's not on the same level as Sonata just yet, but Evil's a good bruiserweight. He's a good bruiser guy. He's a good strong guy. He's kind of like a smaller and more death-looking guy compared to Samoa Joe. He's almost like a Samoa Joe guy. He's strong. He's He's brutal. He's physical. He is actually really good in the ring, which is nice to see out of a guy of his size. But I just feel like they're being wasted in the tag division. I know you need tag teams in New Japan, but use guys that don't get used that often. Togi Makabe is a perfect example. Toru Yano, Toa Hinare, Tomoaki Honma, Tenkozy. Just use those guys. Use the tag teams you know you have. Killer Elite Squad. We haven't seen them since the New Japan Cup, when both of them were in the tournament. Both of them lost in the first 2 rounds. It's time that Evil and Sonata became single stars, and I want to see it so bad. Next is one of the matches I'm very torn on. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship. Dragon Lee defending his title against the best of the Super Juniors winner, Will Ospreay. I have a very good reason, I think, to not know. You have one factor in my mind that's been kind of bugging me since the start of this tournament. And they've mentioned him on commentary. Hiromu Takahashi. We haven't seen much from him. He's been tweeting out weird things. I really, really, really want to see him back. I don't want him to rush back because he's not ready. If he's not ready, he's not ready. But I think he's almost ready. It sounds weird when I say it, but I think he is almost ready. I think he wants to get back out there. He wants to wrestle. And there's no perfect opponent for him than Dragon Lee. And he can get the title back that he never lost. Also, it's weird because I would love to see Hiromu versus Ospreay. Hiromu won the title from Ospreay, if I remember right. Yes, because Ospreay was champ and he lost to Ishimori on the first night last year. Yep. It would be nice to see Hiromu get a chance. Get a chance at the title he never lost. But against Ospreay, it's kind of like the same story we already heard. We already saw it. We know this match. I want to see Hiromu get revenge on Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee's the one who put him out of action. You could easily do a story where, he wants the title back that he never lost from the guy who made him sit out for a couple months. Almost a year at this point. It makes sense to me. I would rather see it too. Plus, then it could free up Ospreay to do some other stuff, which is coming up soon. So it's a tough bet. It's a tough pick. I'm taking Dragon Lee, though. Simply because I want Hiromu to get revenge on Dragon Lee. More than I want to see him face Ospreay. Next is the other one I have no idea at all. The IWGP Intercontinental Championship. I think I spelled Intercontinental on this paper wrong, but I don't care. Kota Ibushi defending his championship against Tetsuya Naito. This could work either way. You could have Naito go into the tournament as one of the big stars, or you could have Ibushi go into the tournament as one of the big stars. In these tournaments, typically, if you beat the champion, you get a title shot later. So, like last year, Juice Robinson lost to damn near everybody, but Cody got a title shot. So he's not the best example. Let's look at Kenny Omega. Kenny Omega is a perfect example. Omega went into the tournament last year as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. He lost to Tomohiro Ishii fair and square. He lost to Toru Yano due to Bullet Club interfering. The next pay-per-view, the next special event for New Japan was the Destruction event. I believe it was Destruction in Kobe, where Tomohiro Ishii got the title shot. He lost, unfortunately, but it shows that if you beat the champion, you get a future title shot. So say Dragon Lee's victorious in his match Sunday, and he would go on to have to defend the title against Shingo Takagi, Taiji Ishimori, and was it just those two he lost to? Yeah, because I think he tied Ishimori, now that I'm thinking about it out loud. So professional. Ew. Did I close it? Damn it. Hold on. This is very important. Best space. Best of the Super Juniors. Not the stupid picture. Yeah, he tied Taiji Ishimori. So he only lost to Ishimori and Takagi. So he would have those 2 title defenses coming, but if Hiromu wants a chance at the title back, he never lost, then I'm fine with that. So if you look at Ibushi's, if Ibushi or Naito go into the tournament with the title, whoever they lose to, they have to defend against. There's more matches I want to see Ibushi have with the title, and that's like the only thing I have in mind right now. Is I'd rather see Ibushi defend the title than Naito. We know how good Naito is. And to be fair, we know how good Ibushi is. I want to see Ibushi have a long run as champion, though. He had a decent reign as IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, maybe a month and a half, if that, with the never openweight belt. I want to see him have a long run with the title. The Intercontinental title is perfect. Have him have a decent length reign, and then he could drop it to one of the younger guys, Sonata, Evil, Zack Sabre Jr. Help, maybe he drops it to Ospreay. Who knows? But so just simply for that reason, for me wanting to see Ibushi reign longer with the title, I'm going to go with Ibushi on this one. Then our main event, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Kazuchika Okada defends the championship against Chris Jericho. Jericho's not winning the title. There's no way in hell it's happening. Yeah, you can have Jon Moxley win one of the secondary belts and go to All Elite Wrestling with it, but you're not going to have Jericho show up with the IWGP Heavyweight Championship belt, the most historic belt in Japanese pro wrestling history, in my opinion. Okay, maybe not most historic. Most well-known championship outside of WWE for North American viewers. I think that's a better term. I think it's going to be a good match, I feel like. I didn't think Jericho versus Evil would be very good, simply because their styles didn't match up well. That turned out to be a pretty good match. Okada and Jericho match up well with Jericho's whole Painmaker gimmick against Okada's Rainmaker. I think you look at Okada's reign, this is him proving he belongs again, but I also think it's perfect for him to drop it to a smaller name, not a smaller name in New Japan. ZSJ, Sonata, again, those two always come to mind, but it's a tough call for like who he would drop it to. He's retaining here. I have no doubt about that. You're not going to have a G1 Climax without the champion. I think the champion would have to be in the field. If there's like certain circumstances, yes, I understand that, like prior obligations or something. I also believe Jericho is going on tour with Fozzy soon. I'm pretty sure he's not going to be at Fyter Fest. And I think he's not going to be at Fight for the Fallen. If he is, he's not been announced yet. I see Okada retaining. I see a good match. Maybe not the best match on the whole show. I think that's going to be Naito versus Ibushi, to be fair. But I see a really good match. Okada coming out on top and Okada going into the G1 looking very, very strong. Jericho comes out looking strong, yes, but I think Okada goes into the G1 Climax looking very strong. Speaking of the G1 Climax, I'm going to say this right now. These are my predictions for the field. I feel like a lot of these, except for maybe the last 3, are almost guarantees. So already announced for the field are IWGP Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada, IWGP Intercontinental Champion Kota Ibushi, Tetsuya Naito, Jay White, Evil, Sonata, Jeff Cobb, Tomohiro Ishii, and the retiring legend Jushin Thunder Liger. Those are the first 9. If they're going to be a 20-person tournament, then there's some questions about the last couple spots. But I look at it, I feel like here are the ones I'm confident will be in the tournament. Taichi, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Yoshihashi, Minoru Suzuki, Bad Luck Fale, Zack Sabre Jr., Juice Robinson, and this one I'm not the most confident in, but I think he's probably going to be in the tournament, Hiroki Goto. I think you look at it, those are all guys that came back from last year, minus Taichi. Yoshihashi has looked good since coming back from injury. He's looked really good. Minoru Suzuki's Minoru Suzuki. He will rip your head off and you will smile about it. If you don't, he will chop you into oblivion. He'll forearm you in the neck to oblivion and you will be feeling it for the next 3 years. Fale is Fale. He's tough to describe in the ring. He's not he's not the best big man ever. He's maybe the most well-rounded big man in wrestling history, I think. But I feel like it's certain Fale will be in the tournament. He's that big name that everybody's like, how the hell are you going to beat this big guy? No matter how many matches he loses. He ended up last year with 6 points, mostly because of disqualification with Bullet Club. But I think this is pretty much him being like, oh, he's this big guy. How are these smaller guys going to match up with this big guy? And when they get the win, it looks big. It looks huge. Zack Sabre Jr. He's becoming a big name in New Japan. They obviously love him. He got a IWGP title shot at Sakura Genesis, last year for a reason. Juice Robinson is Juice Robinson. He looked fantastic against Moxley. Now without the title, you could pursue other titles. Open weight, Intercontinental. It'll be interesting to see with Juice. I don't know exactly where he goes. Goto, I'm just not a big fan of. He's insulted me. It's tough because I want to like Goto. I really do. But he just isn't selling me well. Hiroshi Tanahashi's Hiroshi Tanahashi. There's no way he's not going to be in the G1. The only reason he's not going to be in the G1 is because he doesn't feel like he's ready for it. If he's not ready for it, then it'll be interesting to see who gets that spot. That would be a more interesting topic. If Hiroshi Tanahashi is not in the G1, who takes Hiroshi Tanahashi's spot? I have a couple names in mind, but get to them in a second. And Taichi felt robbed last year. He felt like he should have been in the tournament. Now you have the departure of Michael Elgin, who's now in Impact Wrestling, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page, who are now in Elite Wrestling. And I said this earlier on Twitter, I believe. I think last year, if I remember hearing right, Togi Makabe said that would be his last G1. If that is, that's 4 spots open. One goes to Jeff Cobb. And one went to Liger. Yeah, that math works. Yeah. Somebody else is out from last year, too, if I remember right. I might not be. Let me see. Last year's G1 Climax. Last year's G1, let's see. Yeah, so Elgin's an Impact. Makabe, I think, was last year was his last one. Hangman Page. Yeah, and Kenny Omega. So 4 guys are gone from last year's G1. They will not be in the tournament this year. I think at least with Makabe. Don't quote me on that. So that leaves 3 spots. But I went with 4. Liger took 1 spot. Taichi took another. Actually, I went with 5 new faces. Taichi and Liger are 2 of them. Wait, how did I do this? Makabe, Omega. I don't know how my math worked, but it worked, so I'm just going to go with it. So for new faces, I have one of them is Brody King. I said this earlier. He looked like he belonged in there. He looked impressive on his whole tour with New Japan for the Best of the Super Juniors with Marty Scurll. And I'm very curious just how much New Japan wants to invest into somebody like Brody King. He's not your typical pro wrestler. He looks different. He's different, which is nice to see. I'm very happy to see Brody King in the ring. I hadn't seen much of him before G1 Supercard, and since seeing a lot of him with the G1 Supercard plus Best of the Super Juniors, very impressed, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do in the future. I think he would be a good addition to the G1, especially if you put him in the same block as Fale, because you look at Fale versus Brody King, big man versus big man, somebody's got to give. Brody King has that athleticism that Fale doesn't. And that would be a huge little story point in that match. I would love to see Brody King more in New Japan. I'd love to see more of Brody King in general. I think Brody King could be a legit challenger to Matt Taven as the Ring of Honor champion. I'm very excited to see what the future holds for Brody King. I think he would do well in the G1. It all depends on block placement, and we don't know anything about that yet. The other 2 new names I have in the tournament are the 2 guys who are in the final for Best of the Super Juniors, Shingo Takagi and Will Ospreay. Here's why. I think here's what somebody disagreed with me on. You had Kushida, who was maybe one of the best junior heavyweights of all time, possibly the best. It's a long debate that I don't really have time for right now. To me, he always just looked too small. He looked so small in New Japan. He looks bigger in WWE, which is good. But he looks so small to me in New Japan. Ospreay and Shingo Takagi look like they can go with the heavyweights. Ospreay's beaten a couple of heavyweights. But Shingo Takagi, if he beats Satoshi Kojima on Sunday, I think there's a very, very, very good chance you're going to see Shingo in the G1. And they're going to go from back-to-back tournaments. They're going to have roughly a month off. I say off, not wrestling as much. And you're going to have Ospreay. If anyone's going to do the back-to-back of Best of the Super Juniors and the G1 Climax, it's Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi. There's no doubt in my mind they could both do it. They could both hang with the heavyweights too. You look at these guys, there's not a lot of guys who are going to be bigger than them. Fale, Brody King, looking at the names, maybe Okada, Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb's the other one. Everybody else looks like they could be in the same weight class. They could all be considered heavyweights. I think right now in New Japan, you have more of a hybrid type. You have the heavyweights that are really good. You have the junior heavyweights that are really good, and they look like they can go with the heavyweights. I think it's time they let the junior heavyweights get a shot. If you're going to evolve with wrestling, right now is the time. And yes, I know there's the debate of New Japan doesn't have women's wrestling. They should have women's wrestling. Why don't they support women's wrestling? That's my topic for next week. Because after Dominion, it's going to be a little bit of a quiet period for wrestling. A little bit of quiet period, a couple weeks, maybe a couple months, I don't know. But if anything, this would be a time for the junior heavyweights to get a shot, especially Will Ospreay and Shingo Takagi. Two guys as over as them, they should get a chance with the heavyweights. Now, here's the thing. I said on Twitter, I think with the Best of the Super Juniors expanding from 16 to 20, we could see the G1 Climax expand from 20 to 24. 24 would be a nice number. You'd have 12 guys in each block. That's 11 singles matches plus tag matches. So a lot of experience, a lot of exposure. And if you play your cards right, you could build some future stars. But who would take those 4 spots? I am torn between... between 9 guys. The 4 I gave the spots to, one is Jon Moxley, because they could have all 4 champions in there. I wouldn't mind seeing it, but I think that if any champion's missing, it's going to be Moxley. But I really want to see it. I don't care. I don't care about schedules. I want to see Jon Moxley in the freaking G1. Let's do it. Book it, New Japan, if you're listening, Gato and Harold Maya. I would like to see Jay Lethal. I keep saying this. Jay Lethal is so good. He's amazing. He's maybe the best wrestler to never wrestle for WWE. And that's tough because Okada's in the conversation. Naito, Tanahashi, Suzuki. You have all these guys in this conversation. You have to have Jay Lethal in that conversation at this point because he's really good in the ring. I think he would be a nice addition to the G1. Also gets Ring of Honor in the rotation. I couldn't think of anybody for CMLL, which makes me upset. Or Rev Pro for that matter. Because Rev Pro in Britain, there's a lot of cruiserweights. Well, junior heavyweights, not heavyweights. I put Kojima in because name value, he's a former winner. 3-time World Tag League winner. And I think Tanga Loa would be interesting to get in there. You get him the experience, and you can get him to grow as a wrestler, which would be nice. The names I left out, Tama Tonga, who tweeted that he doesn't want a spot, and I'm curious. He's been messing with What Culture on Twitter and in real life, and he's been trying to get a match with Simon. Do we see a working relationship between New Japan and Defiant Wrestling, and we get to see Simon Miller wrestle for New Japan? I'm down with that. I don't have Yano in there because I don't think there's a spot for him this year, which is a shame. Because when he's not Sneaky Yano, the Sublime Master Thief, he's really good in the ring. Makabe, like I said, I think last year was his last year's. Last year was his last G1, is what I wanted to say there. David Finlay is injured, and I think he would have been a good person to have in there. And I can't say his first name. Hiroyoshi Tenzan is a question mark. He's been on the most, so I wouldn't doubt seeing him in there again. But who knows? It's all speculation at this point. We're not going to get the official 20 or 24 names until at the earliest Sunday. I'm going to assume maybe middle of next week is what I'm thinking we're going to see them. If we do, I'll talk about that on this here podcast, and you should listen and subscribe, please. It'd be nice. I'd really like that. Before we get to my takeover thoughts, I do want to talk about the Takeover UK Cardiff that was announced. I was looking for possible matchups because I like to do this in my head. Some of the matchups I thought of: Cassius Ohno versus Kenny Williams. You get to name Cassius Ohno on a takeover again, and you could build up Kenny Williams a little bit. Noam Dar, Joseph Connors. Why not? Gallus, I think it's Gallus, versus Wild Boar and Primate. Jordan Devlin versus Ligero. Rhea Ripley versus Piper Niven. And Jazz Gabbert and Ginny versus Team Kick. They're returning Dakota Kai, and they're returning Tegan Nox. There's 3 matches there I think we could see on the main card. I wouldn't put it past them to put Gabbert and Ginny versus Team Kick on there, because it's UK, it's Cardiff, it's Wales. Tegan Nox is from Wales. I would love to see Tegan Nox back. It's the perfect place for her to re-debut. But, again, I don't know if she's ready yet. I did the math before. She technically is ready to come back if rehab and everything went well with her surgeries. I know Dakota Kai is out of her knee brace, so there's that. But it's a tough one. It's tough because it's not easy injuries to come back from. And I don't think Nox's first match back should be a championship match against Toni Storm. Maybe she saves her from a post-match beatdown or something. I don't know. I wouldn't mind seeing Rhea Ripley versus Piper Niven. They've kind of teased this matchup a little bit. I know Rhea's currently dealing with an injury, so it might not be happening. If it doesn't, I'm not mad about it. You can save it for the next takeover, which should be Takeover Glasgow. You went from the UK. You went from Britain with Blackpool. Now you go to Wales. Next could be Scotland. Then Northern Ireland and Ireland. And there's your loop. There's your 5. I wouldn't mind seeing Devlin versus Ligero. That would be a very fun matchup. 2 guys flying around. It's obvious they want to build up Jordan Devlin. And I think they have a working relationship with Over the Top Wrestling where Jordan Devlin is the current champion. So they might want to build Devlin up to be one of the next big UK stars, along with Pete Dunne, Travis Banks, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, all of them. So the actual card, I do feel confident in 4 of these matches happening. We're going to see British Strong Style versus Imperium, which is going to be Fabian Eichner, Marcel Bartel, and Alexander Wolf. So that match is going to happen, I feel pretty confident in. It's going to be all British Strong Style. It's going to be Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, and Travis Banks. Pete Dunne, Trent Seven, and Tyler Bate. There we go. That's how you do that. I think you look at it, it's going to be a very interesting matchup because you have all these clashing styles. You have the British hard-hitting style of Dunne, Bate, and Seven. And then you have kind of the sneakier style of Imperium. It'll be very interesting to see. I'm very excited for it. I feel like we could see Dave Mastiff versus Joe Coffey. That'd be a fun one, I think. You have Big Bad Mastiff. You have the guy who almost beat Pete Dunne for the UK Championship going up against each other. And you continue to build Mastiff up. He beat Dennis at TakeOver Blackpool. He beats Joe Coffey at TakeOver Cardiff. That would be very fun. Then we have the 3 title matches. We're going to have 3 title matches. The UK tag titles, the UK women's title, and the UK title. I feel very, very confident. It's going to be Grizzled Young Veterans, which is Zach Gibson and James Drake, defending the UK tag titles against FSU. For those of you that don't know, FSU means either means Friends Stand United or Fuck Shit Up. It depends on how Mark Andrews and Eddie Dennis are feeling. I think Dennis will be ready in time for the show. It gets 2 Wales guys on the show, which is nice. But who knows at this point? We're probably going to start the build for it the next taping, which I think is not next week, but the week after at Download Fest. Not promoting it. I don't know enough about it, but I believe that's the next taping. I believe the next NXT TV taping itself too, the North American NXT, is happening soon. Maybe a day for all I know. Anyway, they'll start to build to that. It'll be nice to see Mark Andrews get on the card. I'm a big fan of Andrews. He's great. He's fantastic. He just flies around the ring so easily. It's not fair. The women's match is probably going to be Toni Storm versus Kylie Ray. They might save Kylie for Glasgow, but I looked at the women's roster. Toni Storm's run through everybody. Who's left? There's nobody really left for Toni Storm to defend against, so why not Kylie Ray? It could be Tegan Nox, but you have her lose in her return match. What does that do? And you have to keep Kylie Ray and Toni Storm separated then. But I think it would be a great match. I know that for a fact. But I would rather see this match, Storm versus Ray, than Storm versus Nox, because I don't want Nox to lose when she's just coming back. Because it wouldn't feel right for her not to win in her return match. You would want her return match to be special, and you would want her to win. Especially since she's probably going to be one of the biggest names in the women's division going forward. Across Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and NXT UK. She's going to be a big name, regardless. And then the main event, I was struggling to think of who could be the next challenger for Walter. But after thinking about it and looking back at some of the taping results from past NXT UK shows, I think it might be Travis Banks. If I remember right, Banks is the number one contender. He hasn't challenged for the title yet. So why not have him challenge there? And you can make Banks become a big star. He's not going to beat Walter. Walter's going to probably lose the title to... Oh, God. I didn't even think about this. Who is going to beat Walter? It might be Dragunov. It might be Ilya Dragunov. The two names in my mind fighting for it are Ilya Dragunov and Dave Mastiff. It might be Dave Mastiff. I'm torn now. I just made myself be torn. I don't know who's going to be the person to take it off of Walter. But I think you make Banks look amazing here. I've been a fan of Banks. I keep saying I've been a fan of Banks since WCPW and him in the Prestige with Joe Hendry, Joe Coffey, and BT Gunn. Imagine if they can get BT Gunn and Joe Hendry and you can remake the Prestige in WWE. I would love that. But he's not gonna beat him. I've said this a bunch of times already. He's not going to beat Walter. But I think they want Travis Banks to be a star. He looked great in the G1. My mind is just everywhere with wrestling. He looked great in the UK tournament too, but he didn't win it. Zach Gibson won that one. I think now would be a perfect time to give Banks a great look and see how well he can be and how much of a star he can become. So let's get to what I wanted this to be, the meat and potatoes of. I'm 52 minutes in already. The NXT Takeover 25 review. Again, another fantastic takeover. I'm very excited to see what's next for NXT. How far could they push this? But let's obviously start at the top of the card. Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong. So you look at Matt Riddle versus Roderick Strong. It was a very good match, a good choice to be the opener. Usually it's the tag team titles that open the show. I was happy they went with this match first, simply because of the fact that it allowed the tag teams to look better a little bit later. One match later, but still later in the show. I thought that this was the first time I've seen Roderick Strong in a singles match in a long time, I felt. Not just like normal singles match, but a singles match in a takeover. So I did a little digging, a little research. This was Roderick Strong's first singles match at a takeover since he faced Eric Young at TakeOver Chicago 1. The one where Ciampa turned on Gargano. I believe that's where it was. Actually, I feel certain that's where it was. I hate that I don't have enough confidence in myself. Let's look up TakeOver Chicago. It's loading. It didn't load anything. Thanks, Cage Match. Really appreciate it. So happy. When did DIY break up? DIY break up and feud. There we go. It was later revealed. Yeah, TakeOver Chicago which they lost. Read article. Yeah, because that was the one that Riot was on the poster for, and I was happy for her. Yep. Yep, that was where DIY broke up. So, it makes sense to me, because Strong's been so busy in tag matches. He did a lot with Undisputed Era, and he had the one tag, triple threat tag where he teamed with Pete Dunne against Authors of Pain and O'Reilly and Cole. I was very impressed. It's partly because these people get in tag matches all the time. You forget how good of a singles competitor they can be. And he looked great. I'm very, very impressed with Roderick Strong. The only problem I have, he has the nickname the Messiah of the Backbreaker. So you know what he's going to target. You know where he's going to go. So it's a shame that it's always going to be the same target. To me, at least. Matt Riddle got back on the winning track, and I don't know if this was from the match and Matt Riddle's fantastic selling, or it was just in general. Now I can kind of see maybe why they wanted Matt Riddle on NXT. He might have a bit of a gas tank issue. If you think about it, UFC fights are usually 3 rounds, 3 minutes, so it's a 9-minute fight, compared to championship matches, which are 5 rounds and 5 minutes, I believe. If it's 3 minutes, it's a 20-minute fight. If it goes all 5, if it's 5 minutes each round, it's a 25-minute fight. Either way, Riddle kind of just looked slow out there. He looked like he was sucking wind. It might have just been his fantastic selling. I'm going to chalk it up to that for right now, but maybe that's why they want him in NXT. I don't know. Either way, it was a great match. Both guys looked great. Riddle adjusting his game plan to work with his injured back. Quotes around injured. To work with his back was great. Especially that finisher. I believe it's called the Bro Derek. I don't get why it's called the Bro Derek. There might be some story behind it, but I don't know it. It looked great. It's a jumping, falling flat. It's almost like a Styles Clash mixed with a Tombstone. That's probably the best way you could put it. It's a Styles Clash plus a Tombstone. But it looked good. These guys look great, like I said. I think Riddle's going to continue to go up. But I think it's too early for him to challenge for the title. Simply because of like a point I'll make later during the show, during this and in the TakeOver review. It felt like, and they said this, they had to move everything up a month, essentially, a TakeOver up. So this was probably going to be where Gargano dropped the title anyway. It was probably always going to be Adam Cole, but he was going to win it from Ciampa before Ciampa broke his neck. Well, broke his neck. Had the spinal injury, I believe it was. Anyway, our next match was the Fatal 4-Way ladder match to determine the new NXT Tag Team Champions after the Viking Raiders relinquished the titles. You had Undisputed Era represented by Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish, commonly known in Ring of Honor as Red Dragon. You had Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. You had Forgotten Sons represented here by Wesley Blake and Steve Cutler. And the Street Profits, Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins. There was a bunch of spots here. I'm going to go over the ones that stuck out to me. Wesley Blake's suicide dive to the ladder on the outside that was being held by Fish and O'Reilly. That looked scary. I thought he might have broke his neck, to be fair. He ended up being fine, which is nice to see, but it looked really scary. Kyle O'Reilly's first ladder bump, where the ladder fell, and then he fell on top of it. Like, Undisputed Era was climbing it. I believe it was Forgotten Sons, knocked the ladder down, and then just flat onto the ladder. Lorcan and Burch suplexing the Forgotten Sons, who had a ladder on their heads, like for the airplane spin. Again, very scary. They could have easily jammed their necks. Thankfully, they didn't. The frog splash by Montez Ford. Yeah, Montez Ford. Ford might have... Was it Ford or was it Dawkins? Ah, crap. If I look at them, I know them. Oh, God. I feel bad now. I should have written this down. It was... Ford, yes, it was Montez Ford. Ford's Frog Splash might be the best in the business right now, at least. Trying to think who else is a good one. Off the top of my head, I can't think of anybody. So it might be Montez Ford by default. O'Reilly fell while Fish was on defense of the ladder. I don't know if that was planned, if he just slipped, or what. Very confusing. Wesley Blake powerbombed. After O'Reilly fell, Fish went up the ladder and O'Reilly was on defense. Wesley Blake powerbombed O'Reilly onto the ladder. Fish was climbing. It was a very good double leg defense by Wesley Blake. Very good amateur wrestling skill, it looked like there. The dual springboard electric chair spot where Lorcan and Birch had a European uppercut on one of the Forgotten Sons, and Street Profits hit a super blockbuster, which was nice. And then Jackson Riker came in, the third member of Forgotten Sons, and just slowed the pace down. He looked so strong. He just was beating up everybody. It didn't matter who. It took 6 guys to stop him. It took Fish, O'Reilly, Ford, Dawkins, Lorcan, and Birch. Very, very impressive. I think they want to use Riker very well and in the future. I'm not sure how far, but I think they want to use him, and I'm very excited to see it. And then here was the scary part. Undisputed Era had a ladder. They turned around. Birch hit a dropkick. Fish's right arm went through the ladder, and his elbow bent the wrong way. Like how your elbow always bends in, his bent out. And you could see he wasn't doing good. When Lorcan and Birch go to throw him into the ring post, he yells, "Watch it." He was able to push himself up with it, so it looks like it's okay, which is nice. And you feel for it because Bobby Fish tore his ACL last year, and into this year it was like, please don't let Bobby Fish get hurt, because he's such a good wrestler. And if he got hurt, it would make you start to think, okay, maybe he has an injury problem, which he usually doesn't. It's a shame, because Bobby Fish is maybe one of the best underrated wrestlers ever. But overall, in the end, the right team won. It looked great. Everybody looked strong. Everybody looked like they belonged. Nobody looked bad. Eventually, all 9 guys involved in the match came out looking stronger, which is very hard to do in a multi-man ladder match, but they did it here. So some notes about the teams. Street Profits, this win proves they belong. They belong in the conversation for tag team championships, and they belong to be in the conversation as one of the 4 teams, in WWE that would desert 5 teams. I can't do math. You had 5 teams that proven they can go in the top. Well, 4 Iconics really haven't done much, but on the 4 shows with the 5 titles, you had the Raw tag, the SmackDown tag, the Women's tag, the NXT tag, and the NXT UK tag. The Street Profits look like they belong in that conversation now. At first, when I saw Street Profits, I was like, they could be okay. They could be a decent team. It would essentially be kind of like Legion of Doom in WWE. They would look good. They always look good, but they would never reach their potential. What is it? The Road Warriors did that outside of WWE. But inside, they looked okay at best. But Street Profits prove they belong here. They have phenomenal potential, and this could be the beginning of something special. You can see Street Profits go on to become one of the best teams in NXT history. And as often as you see like the tag team division and how bad it is, and you look at NXT, they don't have a lot of teams, but the Street Profits are one of the better teams they have. To be fair, all 3 of these teams look great. All 4 of the teams are great. And for the 3 that lost, you kind of feel bad, but a good question is, where can they go next? Where can they go from here? So with Forgotten Sons, these guys look like fantastic opportunists or scavengers, pretty much like how Edge would look. Edge was always the guy looking for the opportunity, looking for the chance, looking for a way to get to the top. The Street Profits winning wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Forgotten Sons. You go back and watch. You have Birch and Lorcan in an Undisputed Era fighting on top of the ladders, reaching for the titles. Forgotten Sons. This was just after the Riker beatdown. Forgotten Sons had stayed out of the ring since then. And in they come as soon as those two start fighting and reaching for the titles. They just knock the ladders over. There's a clear path. There's no one there. It looked like a perfect plan. If it wasn't for Montez Ford and Angelo Dawkins spearing and springboarding, Forgotten Sons would be your NXT Tag Team Champions. They look like fantastic heels. They're going to be the big heel team going forward. Partly because I don't know what could be next for Undisputed Era. What do they have left to do? Answer: let Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish be single stars. Which gets me to Undisputed Era, or as I have written down here, Red Dragon. They're still fantastic. They bumped like madmen. They looked fantastic. They look great. They're just two guys that get tag team wrestling, it seems. You have two guys who understand what's going on in there. Three guys, if you include Roddy in that conversation. The reason I include Roddy, I want to see Kyle O'Reilly get a singles run. I want Kyle O'Reilly to be a single star. I think he could be. He's done it before in Ring of Honor. He did it in New Japan, too. He could do it in WWE. And I would love to see it. But with how good Adam Cole is, and if it's a four-man group, somebody's got to be in the tag team. Right now it's Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, which I'm fine with, but I would love to see if O'Reilly ever got a chance to go singles and have a run there. Also, these two are... It's tough to think about even the NXT Tag Team division. You look at these two, they've been tag champs before. Undisputed Era's won the championships twice. Yeah, they could make history and be the first three-time champs. And with Revival more than likely being out the door, I can see that happening. But I don't know if it happens. I don't think it happens. I've been wrong before. I would love to be wrong here, but I don't... It's a tough call. I don't make the calls, but if I did, I'm going to say no. Simply because I think they want to build up these other teams. And then the other team in this match, Lorcan and Birch, they stayed aggressive and hard-hitting. That's just their style of offense. They're always the hard-hitting guys. They're always aggressive. They're always here to prove a point. But they're missing something. And I went back and watched, and I thought about it during the match. They don't have a character. You have Street Profits, who are the party-going, happy-go-lucky guys who are happy to be here and ready to whip ass. You have the Forgotten Sons, who are these opportunistic, dirty, grimy heels who want to get to the top. Any means necessary. Doesn't matter if it's DQ, doesn't matter if it's dirty tactics, they just want to get to the top. And then you have Undisputed Era, who are these guys who are just really good at wrestling and know they're better than you. Lorcan and Birch don't have that kind of character yet. And I know Lorcan is now on 205 Live, while also being in NXT. But they can develop something. I honestly think they could be the team that beats Grizzled Young Veterans for the NXT UK titles. I know Lorcan and Birch are both Americans, so it's a little weird, but they're two really good wrestlers, and NXT UK, where the UK is built on fantastic wrestlers. Look at any of British Strong Style, Joe Coffey even. Look at Zack Sabre Jr., Marty Scurll, Will Ospreay. These are just fantastic wrestlers in general. Those two fit fantastically into that scene. And then you get a babyface team who is there that can challenge, because there's not many tag teams in NXT UK either. You can almost just like throw guys together and be like, oh, these two guys work. Oh, these work. Oh, this works. And it's like, does it work? Does it not? Lorcan and Birch being thrown together worked fantastically. And I can see it working great in the future. But right now, they don't really have much they can do in NXT, especially since Street Profits are the champions. NXT doesn't usually go face versus face. They usually go face versus heel. And I can see that here. I can see Street Profits, Forgotten Sons being the next championship match for the tag titles. But it's a tough call because there's so many good teams, but there's so few. So it's like, what do you do? It's not my call. I'm very happy it's not. But another fantastic match. I'm very excited to see the future of the tag team division. I did have a question. Mauro Ranallo at one point said that you have to grab both titles. What if, for example, Montez Ford and Oney Lorcan grab titles? What happens then? Are they the tag team champions? Where happens to Angelo Dawkins and Danny Burch there? Who knows? So now we go to the North American Championship match between Tyler Breeze, the returning Tyler Breeze to NXT, and Velveteen Dream. After following a ladder match, it's hard. It's hard to go and follow a ladder match, especially one that was that good. So you look at what could Breeze and Velveteen Dream do to follow that. What they did was a nice, classic, old school match where you saw both guys somewhat using heel tactics. Neither guy looked like a clean face, like a guy who's obviously there to get cheered. They both just showed up because they wanted that championship and they wanted to win, which was nice to see. It's a different change of pace. Breeze had a very unique backbreaker where he took Velveteen Dream's arm, wrapped it around his own neck. He took Velveteen Dream's arm, wrapped it around Velveteen's neck, and then hit a backbreaker there. They also did have nice clashing attires. Dream's this flashy, flamboyant, outgoing guy who wants to look good and look different and stand out from the crowd, where Breeze had the classic black essentially saying he's here for a fight and he's not leaving without the title. It was different. If you look at everybody from the night, Riddle had different attire. Street Profits had different attire. I really like to forget the Sun's attire. Those red is really nice. And Dream and Breeze had different attire. Breeze even ditched the flashy, floppy, noodle-looking things on his boots. I don't even know what to call them. But he ditched those, which was nice. It was different. I'm very happy to see it. There's also a very nice finishing sequence where Breeze hit the beauty shot. His spinning crescent kick, I believe, is what it is. And Dream landed further away towards the ropes. Breeze scrambled for the cover. Dream just rolled out. It's been a long time, for me at least, since I've seen somebody hit their finisher and desperately try to get to a pin, and the other person just rolls out of the ring. Fantastic work by Dream there. Fantastic work by Breeze. And then Dream went for the title. He was going to hit Breeze with it. Breeze caught it and turned into he threw the belt to the referee, turned into a Dream Valley Driver and the Purple Rainmaker. I'm very curious. Are we seeing more of a heel Velveteen Dream? Because NXT is very light on heels. To be fair, it's not their fault. People just love professional wrestling. And when you get pro wrestlers in a pro wrestling company, it's very, very nice to see a different change of pace from the main roster entertainment stupid stuff. I was very happy to see it. You have to have somebody who can draw heat. Velveteen Dream could easily draw heat. There is no doubt in my mind. But it could also just be him doing whatever it takes to defend his title. Because once you get to the top of the mountain in professional wrestling in general, you never want to leave that spot. So it's just like Dream saying, I'm not leaving here. You have to rip this away from me. Which is a very nice, different thing to see. And I'm very, very curious about the North American title scene. I'll get into that a little bit later. There was a promo that played after that. It was for Damian Priest. For those who don't know, Damian Priest is formerly known as Punishment Martinez. He came over from Ring of Honor. He was in the same Performance Center recruiting class as Mia Yim and I believe Matt Riddle. Yeah, I think Riddle and Yim came in at the same time, along with Martinez. I know, and everyone said this, and it's true. He looks like a knockoff Baron Corbin. He looks like the next Baron Corbin. Martinez is already a well-rounded wrestler. He's a lot better in the ring. And these name changes aren't bad. Punishment Martinez is an okay name. It's not going to be world champion material, and to be fair, I don't know if Damian Priest will be. But it's not bad. It's better than Punishment Martinez, I think. And name changes have been happening a lot recently. The examples that came up, Eric Bugenhagen is Rick Bergs. Trevor Lee, the former multi-time, I believe, X Division champion in TNA, is Cameron Grimes, which is kind of funny because Trevor Lee is from Cameron, North Carolina. Adrian Jowdy, who is the tag team partner of Cesar Bononi in NXT, you've probably seen him on a couple shows, is now, I believe I put Alberto Adburo Ruiz, I believe. Jesse Elbin, who was Jesse in the Mae Young Classic last year, is now Jesse Kamen. And Luke Menzies is now Ridge Holland. And I noticed another one. They have Jonah Rock going by his real name, Jermaine Haley. I don't know how long it's going to be, but these name changes, they're not just, Triple H saying, oh, this just sounds cooler or this will work. To be fair, some of them have worked. What would be moreover? Patrick Clark or Velveteen Dream? Think about that. But they almost feel like now with Vince changing changing War Raiders to Viking Raiders, first the Viking Experience, this could almost be them trying to get these names approved by Vince, so when they eventually do get called up, their names don't change. And to be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of the names even slightly changing. Otis and Tucker, I was fine with. They don't really need a second name. Dozovic is hard to say anyway. Andrade, not the worst. Ali's not the best name change, to be fair. Trying to think of all the other ones. Like, those name changes are just like, they're okay. But these ones actually, I think, are pretty good. The only one I don't like, really, is the one for Adrian Jowdy. I'm fine with Eric Bugenhagen getting changed because that last name is very complicated to say. I say Japanese wrestling last names a lot. My favorite one to break out always is Yoshinobu Kanemaru. But they're always hard to say. Because I gotta look at it and be like, the only reason I know how to say Kojima is because of Metal Gear Solid. Wait, just the Metal Gear series. Not even just Metal Gear Solid. Just the Metal Gear series, because Kojima helped make those. Hideo Kojima, not the Kojima from New Japan. But still. Name changes aren't the end of the world for a wrestler. There's nothing wrong with a name change. It takes a little while to grow on you, and you eventually grow. It eventually does grow on you, and you get used to it. For example, Uha Nation to Apollo Crews. At first, when I saw that, I'm like, why? But now I'm like, now I think about it, having somebody called Uha Nation on the main roster would not really fit. And he got the name change in NXT, so name changes in NXT are not the end of the world, folks. Ali would have been Mr. Money in the Bank. The original plan was for Mustafa Ali to win Money in the Bank. So even as just Ali, he was going to win. Name changes aren't that bad. So I was fine with it. I'm very excited to see what their plans are for Damian Priest. Like I said, he's a good wrestler. At the PC, he's probably only gotten better. There's a reason they're airing vignettes of him. They obviously think he's going to be a good wrestler, so I'm very excited to see where they go. And then we got to our semi-final main event. Io Shirai versus Shayna Baszler for the NXT Women's Championship. Very solid match, very fine with it. A couple of spots. There was like two spots that really stuck out to me. Shirai landed on her feet off of her moonsault, which is her finisher. It's very different than Charlotte or any other wrestler landing on their feet from a moonsault. Those wrestlers always have a high arc. You go back and watch, like even Kurt Angle, he has a huge arc on his moonsault. Io Shirai's is a short rotation moonsault. She has very little reaction time to land on her feet. She did that. She landed on her feet off of her moonsault, which is very impressive from her. To be fair, she's one of the best women's wrestlers in the world, so I understand that. And then Baszler, she had on the Kira Fuda clutch. It was either very professional of her, or just her being a nice person. She moved Io Shirai's hair out of her eyes, so that way, A, she could actually see where she is, and B, they could have the facials for the camera. Because it was right in the hard cam, which was a very, very smart move by Shayna. And a very nice move. Even in general, even if she's going to be heel, it can be a nice heel. It can be the little things that count. So I'm going to talk about... The match itself was okay. It was mostly Shirai trying to stay quick and avoiding Baszler, as Baszler tried to just essentially break her arm like she does with everybody else. So here was my thoughts. Shirai is always solid. And now after this match, she's kind of developing a character. It's not even like her just being a character where it's like, I want that title at all possible costs. I will do anything for that title. It's her almost saying, I need this title. This is for me. I want that, and I'm going to do anything to take that. I'm going to do anything to win. That seems like her character. She's going to do anything possible to win a match, which will be very interesting to see going forward, especially if she is the one to take the title off of Shayna Baszler. But for Shayna Baszler, she is the most dominant champ, yes, but she's the most dominant champ in the weakest division. The NXT Women's Division is so talented, but when you have Shayna Baszler run through everybody, it's almost like, where do you go next? What could be left? There's a reason they had Kairi Sane versus Shayna Baszler 3 or 4 times for the title. And they're probably going to have Shirai challenge a couple more times. I almost see this playing. I think we're going to see Shirai Baszler again at TakeOver Toronto too. And then maybe the next pay-per-view, which I think is TakeOver War Games. See, yeah, after Toronto, they're going to War Games again. It could be a Fatal 4-Way. Baszler, Shirai, LeRae, and Mia Yim. I think Mia Yim is a perfect person. In the ring, she's great. In the ring, she's fantastic. And she's been getting a lot of TV time. She's beaten Bianca Belair, I believe, twice on TV. In a row? Yeah, twice at least. And she's had Baszler attack her after matches. They're obviously building Mia Yim up. They like Mia Yim, and I'm very excited to see where this is going. My only question is, when's the time to pull the trigger? To me, I think Baszler should stay in NXT until Mania next year. After WrestleMania 36, Baszler should get the call up. Because then she'll have done everything and she'll have dropped it to the right person. It's either going to be, it could go Shirai, Fatal 4-Way, LeRae, Yim for Shayna Baszler. That could be her 4 final title matches on TV or on takeovers, and it could be a way to build up Candice LeRae, Mia Yim, and Io Shirai. I'm very curious to see how long Shirai actually stays. In fair with a lot of these wrestlers, I'm curious how long they will stay in NXT. Especially with me mentioning NXT Japan, which I do want to get into next episode. I kind of want to have like some more information on stuff like this before I talk about it. But I think we're going to see Shirai Baszler Toronto. Shirai Baszler in Toronto. But more on that after this match. Adam Cole versus Johnny Gargano, the NXT Championship. I am going to also point out, I did notice this when it happened. They had Britt Baker was sitting front row. For those who don't know, Britt Baker is Adam Cole's girlfriend. But she also wrestles for AEW. So you could also see her giving Stephanie McMahon like that look where it's like, yeah, you clap, you do that. It was kind of funny to me. This match is just so good. These guys knew each other so well. I'm not sure if they saw... This just might be me seeing the one match after the other. In one of the nights of the Best of the Super Juniors, Ospreay versus Robbie Eagles. Those two just knew each other so well. They were avoiding every single attack. And they were just moving everywhere, just avoiding everything. And Cole and Gargano were doing that too. They just know each other so well. I don't know if they were inspired by it or if both matches kind of happened like that. I feel like it's just both matches kind of happened like that. But you just saw them avoiding super kicks, avoiding every little thing they were doing. They knew each other so well because of the months and months of feuding. And I don't know if they're done here. Because I said Adam Cole finally reached the top of the mountain. He's finally on the top. He's made it. What's really left for Gargano in NXT? There's nothing really left. When I think about it, what's next for Adam Cole? Is there going to be a rematch with Gargano? Is it going to be a match with Ciampa, which I would like to see? Is it Tyler Breeze, Matt Riddle, Pete Dunne maybe? Could it be Keith Lee? Could it be Kushida? There's so many options to go with Adam Cole that you just don't know. We don't understand that NXT is such a stacked roster. They use their talent so well. And it's so weird because there's so many names. And you think about it, a bunch of names make sense for the challenge for the title. But who is it? And when you look at it, you want to start building up the next stars. Yes, that's understandable. But where do you start? Where do you look? Who's the first guy? But then you look at somebody like Johnny Gargano, who's done everything and has done amazing. Does he go to the main roster? Does Hunter want him to go to the main roster? Everyone keeps saying, don't go to the main roster. If you're going to go to the main roster, go to 205 Live. Johnny Gargano is at that weight limit. He's going to go to 205 Live, I think. The reason I say he should be on 205 Live, you know who runs 205 Live? Triple H. He gets the same person. He gets the same boss. He understands Triple H and what Triple H wants, and he can give him that. And he can be the one who becomes the most dominant cruiserweight champion ever. Move away Buddy Murphy, move away Cedric Alexander. Gargano is the best. I can see that happening. Does it happen? I don't know. I would love to see Gargano on SmackDown, personally. And if you give Triple H run of the main roster, we could see Gargano as WWE champion in the first 4 years. I would be totally fine with that. But still, it's like, what's left for these two guys to even do in NXT? Obviously, now Cole has to drop the title to somebody. I think he drops the title to somebody. The person I have in mind still is Matt Riddle. And the date I have in mind is still Takeover Chicago. Then the next night he appears on the main roster and he becomes a big force. I could see Adam Cole thriving on either show. I think it goes to Raw, personally. But the question is that where they're going? Because it's obvious they want to build up Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle is maybe the next big star in WWE. I'm just curious what... It still feels a little early to put the title on Riddle. Do they go until Takeover Tampa Bay? That seems like a long time, though. It's a tough call, and with Ciampa's injury, kind of threw everything out of whack. Because, like I said, at Takeover New York was going to be Gargano Cole. No, it wasn't. It was going to be Gargano Ciampa, and that's where Gargano was going to reach the mountaintop. Then at Takeover 25, or the next Takeover, originally in San Jose, was going to be Gargano versus Cole. But with Ciampa getting injured, they moved it all up. It was Gargano Cole at Takeover New York. 2 out of 3 falls. Gargano won. So I still think he would have dropped the title at Takeover 25 anyway. But it's a tough call because you could see him maybe having one successful defense and then Adam Cole gets the title. But with the way the fans are just reacting to Adam Cole, there's no way they couldn't have put the title on Cole that night. It was very nice to see. I'm very excited. And that led me to ask the question, what's next? So next for NXT is TakeOver Toronto 2. Obviously, you follow the 5-match rule. I even asked this on Twitter, what do you think are going to be the matches at TakeOver Toronto? And here's what I came up with. I came up with 5 very different matches. Kushida makes his TakeOver debut against Tyler Breeze. Now, I know Kushida could be a very interesting challenger for the North American title, but Kushida Breeze would be very nice, I think. You have 2 guys who get wrestling. Kushida is maybe the best junior heavyweight of all time, whereas Tyler Breeze is one of the best NXT wrestlers of all time. So it'll be very, very interesting to see if that's the route they go. These 2 guys get wrestling. They understand it, which is nice to see. I'm very excited for the future of NXT, especially with those 2, because I think both of them could be NXT champion at some point. Then you get to the title matches. I have Street Profits defending against Forgotten Sons. Continue that story, as Forgotten Sons is really the only team I could see right now challenging for those titles. Eventually, maybe we get Jonah Rock and Elliot Sexton, I think his name is. 2 of the guys from Australia who were in the big class that included Karen Q, Rachel Ellering, ACH. But still, it'll be interesting. Because right now it's a very weak tag team division. You look at it, you have Street Profits, Undisputed Era, Forgotten Sons, Lorcan and Birch. I can't really name a team outside of that. You get Jonah Rock and Elliot Sexton into the ring at some point, and you can help build that tag team division up, which would be it's very needed because you have very talented wrestlers, but you don't have a lot of roster space. It's a weird issue for NXT. You have a talented PC right now. There's Canadian Team 3.0 in there. I'm trying to think of other tag teams they have there. I don't really know of any. Maybe put Shane Strickland and ACH together? I would like to see that. The two guys who just fly around the ring and have a great time. But right now it's really Street Profits and Forgotten Sons running the division. You could see these two battle for a few pay-per-views, a few takeovers. I could easily see this going to War Games. Then maybe that's when you bring out Jonah Rock and LA Sexton. Maybe it's a triple threat at TakeOver Miami, I believe it is. For the Rumble next year. And then at TakeOver Tampa, you have the one-on-one Street Profits versus Sexton and Rock, where Sexton and Rock take the titles there. For the North American title, I don't know. There's no real clear route for it, at least to me. I put down a couple names. There's Jackson Riker, Keith Lee, and Kyle O'Reilly. Imagine if Kyle O'Reilly is the one to take the title from Velveteen Dream. We could see him playing guitar again, which would be very nice, and I'll be very happy to see it. And then you could have the bigger guys get it. Jackson Riker, Keith Lee, Dominic Djokovic, because I still believe he would have been the one to challenge if it wasn't for him getting injured. But still, I think of those three for Dream, Riker, Lee, or O'Reilly. I'd rather see Dream versus O'Reilly. That'd be very fun. You have Velveteen Dream, who's like Tyler Breeze, a move wrestler, where O'Reilly's a submission-based guy. He is going to try and tie you up in knots. I would want to see that because I believe Kyle O'Reilly might be the most underrated singles wrestler in NXT right now. And it's a shame because he's so good. He is a fantastic wrestler. If he puts you in a knee bar, you're going to feel it. If he puts you in an arm bar, you're going to feel it. There's no way. Dude, his finisher name is Armageddon, where it's armbar. I love that. Let O'Reilly have a chance in the singles division. You have 4 guys in the Undisputed Era. 1 goes for the main title. 1 goes for the mid-card title. 2 go for the tag team. That simple. 1 + 1 + 2, 4. 4 guys in the Undisputed Era. 4 titles. Go get them. Let O'Reilly get a chance. And he would be the perfect person to take the title off of Dream, and you can move Dream to the main event scene again. Maybe he's the one to take the title off of Adam Cole. I don't know. 4th match. Shayna Baszler defending against Io Shirai. Extreme Rules. After the match at TakeOver 25, it seems like that's the route they're going. Shirai beat her up with a kendo stick. Shirai did the moonsault with a chair. It seems like the direction is going to be this. I'm very curious if it is because of the fact that you have one of the best women's wrestlers in the world against a dominant champion who's going to come out on top. I don't want to see Shayna go just yet. She has just a little more to do in the women's division, I think. I think she's ready, but she just needs a little more time. It's a tough call. It's a really tough call. It's not just because I don't want Vince to touch anything from NXT because NXT is too good and they all turn to dog crap when they get to the main roster. I want to see Baszler drop the title. I don't want to see her vacate it like the War Raiders did. I want to see her drop it to one of the young up-and-coming people. Shirai makes sense. Candice LeRae makes sense. Bianca Belair, Mia Yim. Hell, even Deonna Purrazzo, if they ever use her. It would be nice to see. I would really like to see that happen. Because she is so good as a heel. To see that heel who's been the dastardly one that's been getting away with every single little thing for so long finally get their comeuppance. It will be so nice to see. You finally get that moment. You finally get to see her drop the title. It would be worth it. And then I think the main event for TakeOver Toronto 2 should be Adam Cole defending the NXT Championship against Johnny Gargano. And there's a tagline. There's not a tagline. There's a stipulation to this match. A very, very special one. I believe there's only been one other one in NXT. An Iron Man match. These two went through 2 out of 3 falls. They went through a grueling 1 fall to a finish. That it only seems like this is the next logical step, and this is the final step. Whoever wins this is the true NXT champion. because 1-1-2 out of 3 falls. The series is tied 2-2. Gargano won 2-1 at New York. Adam Cole won 1-0 at 25. It's 2-2. You're tied. You get a deciding factor. It's an Iron Man match. Winner's NXT champion. Loser probably goes to the main roster. It would have to be Adam Cole. He's just not ready. And this is me saying he's not ready because of the fact I don't want him to go to the main roster. I want him to stay in NXT. I think he belongs in NXT. NXT is so good with Adam Cole. He is maybe the best wrestler on NXT right now, which is a very tough claim to say, but it might be true. You look at Adam Cole. He is the perfect heel champion. And it's like Shayna Baszler. You want to see that heel drop the title. You want to see him lose it. You want to see him not have to vacate it. You want to see him get punched in the mouth. And then maybe at War Games, maybe at Miami, maybe not until Takeover Tampa Bay. You see him get punched in the mouth by Matt Riddle. Maybe you set it up after this match. I don't know. But I think Adam Cole should stay in NXT. He should be champion for a little while. And then we see Gargano go to the main roster. It would be very interesting because I think the story they want to tell on 205 Live right now, I think, is Mike Kanellis versus Tony Nese. And they want Bennett to be the one to take the title off of Nese. And then maybe a couple months later, you have Gargano on 205 Live take the title from Kanellis. And then you continue to build up Humberto Carlito. I don't know what to say it. I feel very bad. But you continue to build him up until he's ready. And then when he is ready, Gargano drops the title to him. And there's your next star. It can work. So yeah, my official TakeOver Toronto 2, this is how I'm ending the podcast. My official TakeOver Toronto 2 matches. Kushida versus Tyler Breeze. Street Profits defend against Forgotten Sons. Velveteen Dream defends against Kyle O'Reilly. Shayna Baszler defends against Io Shirai in an Extreme Rules match. Adam Cole defends against Johnny Gargano in an Iron Man match. And my official predictions for TakeOver UK Cardiff. Before I forget to say them. British Strong Style versus Imperium. Fabian Eichner, Marcel Bartel, and Alexander Wolf, not Adam Wolf. Dave Masta versus Joe Coffey. Grizzled Young Veterans, Zach Gibson and James Drake versus FSU, Mark Andrews and Eddie Dennis for the NXT UK Tag Team titles. Tony Storm versus Kaylee Ray. Or Kylie Ray. No, it's Kaylee Ray. Kylie Ray's in AEW. Tony Storm versus Kaylee Ray for the NXT UK Women's Championship. And Walter versus Travis Banks for the NXT UK title. And before I forget, just to reiterate from earlier, my predictions for Dominion: Jon Moxley over Shota Umino, Shingo Takagi over Satoshi Kojima, Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr. over Jushin Liger and Yoshihashi, Jay White, Chase Owens, and Taiji Ishimori, there we go, over Hiroshi Tanahashi, Juice Robinson, and Ryusuke Taguchi. Tomohiro Ishii defeats Tai Chi to become the new Never Openweight Champion. GOD retains the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Championships over Evil and Sonata. Dragon Lee retains over Will Ospreay for the Junior Heavyweight Championship in a very, very big toss-up match. Kota Ibushi retains the Intercontinental Championship over Tetsuya Naito in another toss-up match. And Kazuchika Okada reigns supreme still as the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. That's all the time I have for this week. This has been the Armchair Armdrager, by Ben Hersick. I will see you guys next week. We'll have a Dominion breakdown. We will have thoughts about future NXTs. And maybe a couple other things. It'll depend on what happens in the wrestling world. Thank you guys for listening. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button. You will probably get notifications for when videos come out. I have no idea how that works. I don't know enough about YouTube to know about this stuff. Leave a like, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Follow me on Twitter at ChurroSolider. Follow the articles that I write and the website I write for, All Things Combat at Things Combat. You can follow this podcast at Podcast Armchair, all on Twitter. Thank you guys for listening, and I will see you next week.